everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to workshop number 2. Today, we're talking about major exploration. What should you study in college? What are the different majors that are out there? And just kind of understanding what you should choose, and just kind of like the details when it goes to picking a major for college. So an overview of today's presentation, we'll start with an introduction of all of our guest speakers because we have quite a few today. And then we'll start with the discussion question. We'll give an overview of majors. We'll do an activity, and then we'll end with a Q&A with all of our guest speakers. And at that point, you can ask any questions that you might have. So let's get started. Okay, so presenters for today. My name is Arabi. I am the project director of First Gen Empowerment Project, which was originally based in Van Nuys High School. We provide college and career counseling to students, especially those who are immigrant and who are first generation. But our services and everything we do is open to all students who go to public high schools in California. And everything that we do now is online, obviously, with schools shutting down. So we thought this was a really good opportunity to allow other high school students from other high schools to come to our workshops as well, now that they're online and no longer in person. I graduated from UC Berkeley last year, and I majored in sociology. And I'm super glad that I did, because I think sociology taught me a lot about the issues that I'm passionate about, but it taught me to think about them very critically. Things like poverty, racism, sexism, right? All of those like hot topic issues that you hear about on the news, right? You kind of learn about them more in depth if you major in sociology. I became really, really good at reading fast, understanding what I'm reading, summarizing what I'm reading, and also learning how to write effectively. So I'm super glad, because those skills have served me well even after graduation. And so this past year, I've been running this program, and in the fall, I'll be going to law school. Kamal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kamal. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania last year, or actually this year, class of 2020. And I was just recently onboarded for the First Gen Empowerment Program. And I was interested in joining this program because I'm a first-gen student. And for me, transitioning to college, getting to college was a pretty difficult moment in my life. And I think I've learned a lot, and I definitely want to give back. In my undergrad, I studied neuroscience and nutrition science. And I learned a lot. From my undergrad perspective, I was looking back, I was very research heavy. I focused a lot on biomedical research and focused a lot on like translational research. So understanding how things in the lab can be applied to creating treatments for people that will eventually become medications and be used in the real world. And even though I personally don't see myself going to research, I gained a lot of skills in terms of understanding how do you find out what you don't know, how do you teach yourself new skills, and how do you apply the information that you learned in a text in real life. And I learned that through a variety of different things through my undergraduate career at Penn, from classes to research experiences to internships. And I'm really glad to talk about why I majored in what I majored in, and how my undergraduate majors have led me to pursuing a master's in global health, and how I'm also currently in the pre-medical track and hope to go to medical school after complete my master's in Taiwan.
Great, thank you, Kamal. Go next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Avdeep. I am the project development lead for the First Gen Empowerment Project, and I met Arabi at Berkeley. We both graduated at the same time. I majored in political economy, which sounds kind of complex, but it actually, majoring in political economy for me meant it gave me a really wonderful perspective of the world. It made me realize how our world came to be the way it is. It made me realize how countries were formed and how economies are formed, and all the different ways that there are for people to live and be, and for societies to get organized. And that's given me a lot of practical skills. I'm now able to see through organizations and programs in a way that I wasn't able to before. It's allowed me to understand how things get formed. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here and talk about any of that.
Awesome. Do you want to talk about what you're doing in the fall, Avdeep?
Oh yeah, sorry. And so currently I'm working for this nonprofit called Kiva, and we do impact investing in social enterprises around the world. And in the fall, I'll be starting a job with this company called Bridgespan, which is a nonprofit consulting firm.
Great, thank you. Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
So hi, I'm Amy. I recently graduated high school from Van Nuys High School, and then I plan to attend CSUN in the fall as a biology major. I chose this major because I'm on the pre-med track and I'm interested in like the sciences. And then I was part of the First Gen Empowerment Leadership Program this past spring.
Awesome, thank you. So what is a major then? It's a specific subject area that you specialize in while you're in college. So when you graduate from college, your diploma will say that you got your degree in sociology, that was for me, or political economy, computer science. Usually between 30 to 50% of all of your classes will be in your major or it will be related to it. For STEM classes, it's usually more, it's more classes that you take, and more of the classes that you take in college will be within your field. But for social sciences, for me, I was able to take classes that were outside of sociology as well, because so many different fields are related to sociology. So Avdeep and I actually met in the same class that was not in the sociology department or the political economy department, but we both got credit for that class because it was relevant to both of our majors. Some colleges let you design your own major. Like I said, UC Berkeley has the interdisciplinary studies. Other colleges have different names for them, but the idea is you have to pitch a proposal to your department and explain what your major is and what classes you plan on taking. So it's a really cool way to get experience and to learn a lot about different subjects and fields, and if you don't want to commit to one specific field. Some terms to know, just so it'll make it easier to understand what I mean by major classes. So college has 4 types of classes. There's a general ed classes, which is kind of like your A through G requirements in high school. So you like they're basic classes that everybody has to take. You have more options than you usually do in high school. So for example, if you have to take let's say a science class to fulfill your science requirement, they will give you a ton of different options. So I went to community college before I transferred to Berkeley, and to fulfill my science requirements, I took astronomy because I'm not really a hard science person, and I loved astronomy. I thought it was a really cool subject, and that was the only time ever that I have taken an astronomy class, and it will probably be the last time too. And then there are major classes, which are classes you specifically take to fulfill requirements for your major. So for me, all of my sociology classes went towards my sociology degree. And these are broken down into lower division and upper division classes. So lower division classes can be taken at community colleges. That's how people transfer from community college to a 4-year university. And their most GE classes count as lower division classes. And they're usually introductory or general classes, so they kind of give you a very broad overview of a specific field. And then after you finish your lower division classes, you can take upper division classes. And those are only available at 4-year universities like CSUN, UCLA, UC Riverside, and like privates like USC. These tend to be more in-depth specialized classes. So you will focus on a very specific topic within whatever field your class is in. And they tend to be more advanced classes. And to give an example of lower division and upper division, I'm using sociology again because that's what I know. So for lower division, I'd had to take sociology 1, 2, 3, and statistics 1, right? And so I took all of these at community college. I took them at Valley. And then I transferred to UC Berkeley and I took sociology 100, 101, 102, and then a bunch of other classes. You can only take your upper division after you have done your lower division. So if you're going to a 4-year university right after high school, you first have to spend time taking these classes, and then you can start taking these classes, right? So there is that order. You can only take sociology 100 after taking 1 probably, and 2 and 3. So like there is that order you have to follow. And this goes for most majors, if not all of them. And there are usually more lower division requirements for STEM majors. So I know I have some friends who were doing computer science from community college because they wanted to transfer to UC Irvine, and they had to do a lot of lower division classes to be able to transfer to UC Irvine and start taking these upper division classes. Okay, so when do you declare a major? There's 2 times. You can either declare when you apply in high school. So you can, so like when I did apply to colleges, even though I didn't end up going, I picked sociology. Or if you don't know, that's completely fine. You can pick undeclared. Depending on your preferred major, it might be better to pick undeclared because some majors are impacted. We'll talk about what that means. You can always change your major later, so please don't stress. This is not the end of the world if you don't know what you want to study, or if you sort of know but you think you might change. My only advice would be, if you have 2 to 3 majors that you're interested in, go to a college that offers all of them. So then if you do end up switching, you have those options. So for me, if I didn't do sociology, I wanted to do political science, right? Or global studies. So every college I applied to had political science and global studies. So in the event that I did end up switching my major, I could switch into something that I actually like, and I wasn't stuck doing something else. The other time you can declare is during college. So let's say you don't declare a major, you apply to college as undeclared, you go to college, usually by the end of your second year, maybe even the end of your first year, you have to let your college know what you want to study. And even if you pick a college, you can usually change it as well. You can pick a major, you can change it as well. So let's say I graduated from high school, I went to Cal State LA, and I initially picked sociology, but then I decided after taking sociology classes, I just didn't like it. I then end up switching to political science. That's a possibility. The only issue is you cannot switch into every major. There are some majors that are so competitive, you can only get into that major if you apply in high school or if you apply from community college. So again, those are called impacted majors, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. And let us know if you have any questions about those. So there's a distinction between majors and departments. So each major in every college belongs to a department within each university. So I'll use an example. UC Riverside has 6 departments. So School of Public Policy, Education, Business, all of these are called departments. Within each department, they have all of these majors. So all of the things that you guys listed, they're majors within a department. So for UC Riverside, the Borens College of Engineering has all of these engineering majors. The Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences has like hundreds of majors. These are just some of them. Sociology for me would go under social sciences. And then for anyone who's interested in any type of engineering or computer science, it falls under the College of Engineering. Each department will have their own rules for applying. You apply using the same application, but they might have a different GPA requirement. They might have different types of requirements. So what you need to know is wherever you're applying, you have to do your research within the department to see what you need to know about majoring in one of these majors. So now we'll talk about impacted majors. So definition of impacted is just when the number of qualified applicants is greater than the number of available spaces. So when more people are applying to a major than there are spaces to let them in, that major is impacted. So there's just more competitive. So if you have 2,000 people applying to a major with 500 seats, that's super competitive because then most people aren't getting in. Impacted can be used to describe courses, universities, majors, departments, and programs. Not every college has, not every major is impacted, obviously, right? Not every department is impacted. So for UC Riverside, my guess would be most of the engineering majors within the Borens College of Engineering is probably impacted because engineering is a very popular field of study. But for the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, not all of these will be super competitive. Art history and art studio is likely to be less competitive than business economics or anthropology, which are super popular majors. So impacted can refer to a lot of different things, and you have to understand that, which is why it's important that you do your research for each university you want to apply to. About UCs, you don't have to read all of this. Basically, what this is saying is most UCs don't consider your major when they're making admissions decisions. They will consider you for the department. So for example, all majors within the College of Natural Resources at Berkeley are equally competitive, and all majors within the College of Letters and Science at UCLA are equally competitive, right? So going back to our example here, they're basically saying every major here more or less is equally competitive. This is not true for all schools. That's why I'm saying you have to look up each school, but for the UCs, that's generally the case. You are not advantaged or disadvantaged by choosing one major over another within the college. There are some exceptions. UCSD, and engineering. See, I was telling you engineering is competitive. Yeah. So that means that this rule doesn't apply here. You will have to look into each major to see how impacted they are. And UCSD has a completely different set of rules that I think you should look into if you're planning on applying to UCSD. Yeah, so you can generally stop stressing about picking an easy major. For the most part, choose what you like. But if what you like is super, super impacted, then choose undeclared. That's the general rule. Okay, so navigating pre-majors. Kamal, do you want to talk about this?
So when it comes to applying or wanting to enter an impacted major, a competitive major, some schools have a system in place where you first apply for a pre-major, and then you're able to essentially prove that you're not only able to keep up with the rigor of the major, but also that you're able to outcompete other students by completing the pre-major recs or showing commitment to the pre-major recs. And then you can enter the competitive and/or impacted major. But oftentimes, a lot of schools have a system in place where if you scored really well on a standardized test or have a really great GPA, they'll allow you to enter competitive or impacted major directly. So for instance, the CSUs have these policies in place. And for CSUs, they have systems where they have impacted majors. Essentially, impacted majors can be understood as more people are interested in applying for these majors and majoring in this than there are available spots. And then for CSU, sometimes I see a really competitive student. They might allow the student to major in computer science before they even take a computer science class at San Jose State University. So I can actually show you how you could find out more information about this. And I'm going to be sharing my screen and just Googling this for you because I want to show you all that this information is not just available through like secret archives, but is publicly available, and everyone should understand how they can gain access to this because it really changed the way you view college admissions. So I'm in Google. So let's say I'm interested at looking at impacted CSUs. So we can look up CSU impacted. Yeah, let's just Google this and see what pops up. So here. So the first website that pops up is from the Cal State website. So this official website, Impacted Undergraduate Majors and Campuses 2020 to 2021. So I can click here and it will take me to their website. And this website is just able to provide me information about all undergraduate programs, pre-programs, undeclared and decided programs that are impacted in different schools. So let's say I'm interested in studying computer science and I know that I want to go to San Jose. So you can pull up CSU San Jose and let's say I'm going straight from like freshman versus like upper division transfer. And so this website lets me know San Jose isn't impacted. It's impacted for first-time freshmen and read more about impaction at this campus. So there's a wealth of knowledge and I just want you to be able to see what kind of information is available online. So now I'm at the San Jose website, and this San Jose website has archives of how competitive different majors are. And so this is great because it lets me know what my chances are to getting into a major, which might help you decide what school you want and perhaps even what major you want. And so this is called impaction results. So what these numbers are is right now so freshman impaction results by major fall 2015. So all majors at San Jose State University are impacted, essentially meaning that just because you meet the basic CSU eligibility doesn't mean that you're guaranteed admission to San Jose. A non-impacted CSU, if you meet the basic CSU eligibility, you will be guaranteed a spot in the university, but not an impacted major. And another way to think about this is like all UCs are technically impacted in a way because there's more applicants who are qualified to apply for them than they can accept. So now let's look down into how you can look at the different majors of CSUs and see how there's a variance in different impaction. So what the CSUs use is something called an eligibility index. And it's basically a score that's completely based off of your standardized test results and your GPA. And this is going to change for y'all because I know the requirements for the ACT SAT are waived. but there should still be a similar process in place where there will be some kind of academic test or some kind of score generated based off your GPA or test scores, or or how well you did early in your pre-major. That will impact whether or not you get the major you're choosing at an impacted university. And so here you can look at schools like applied math has an applied math, applied and computational has an impacted index of 3,300. We don't know what that means exactly because we don't know how to calculate it yet. But whereas like advertising has like 3,500, except I'm interested in computer science. Look at computer science, 4,300. So this lets you know how the majors vary throughout different schools. And I know we talked about applying to different schools and like looking at like whether you're undecided or not. I think one thing you should look at is seeing whether the school you apply to has some of these policies in place, which might make it difficult for you to major in certain topics. So definitely take a look at this and make sure that you're personally researching these schools, because this is just the San Jose website, and this is how San Jose is impacted. But other schools will have different policies, and you can pull that up. And I'm just going to quickly go over to the UCL. I'm going to show you guys pre-majors, and the way you can find about pre-majors is you can also Google it. So I'm interested in UCLA pre-majors. Google it, and there you could go to the majors website. And then when you go to the website, at first glance, you don't notice which schools are pre-majors, right? There's a ton of majors in just this one school in UCLA. But when you scroll down, you can read applicants are admitted through pre-major status until prerequisite satisfied. It's completed. So the number one. So now you can go over and you can look which majors have pre-majors. So you first apply for pre-major and then you're admitted into the major once you complete the prereqs. So psychology is like that, psychobiology, political science, but not psychological science. And so these are just just Googling some of these things can help answer a lot of different questions. And just make sure you read the full website, because a lot of the information is available in like the small corners. Definitely try to do this over the next few days.
All right, so what I know, that was a lot of information. What you should get out of that is not every school is the same. Even though all the Cal States are in the same system, or the UC they're in the same system, each school will still have some variation in how they accept people. Some schools might do pre-major, so you're not really in the major until you fulfill those classes once you get there, and then you have a minimum GPA. Some schools will let you, some majors and some schools will let you into that program immediately once you are accepted. So moral of the story, do research in individual schools that you're applying to, and don't freak out. I know this is a lot of information, but don't let that stop you from studying what you want, and also looking into what else is related to that field that you can possibly also study that might not be as impacted. Okay, picking undeclared. So by now you should understand impacted majors equals competitive. It just means that there are more people applying than there are seats available, which means the standards for who they're letting in is higher, right? So it's not just enough to meet the minimum GPA. They're not really doing SATs anymore, but when they did, it's not enough to meet just the minimum GPA, the minimum SAT. If the major you intend to apply for is impacted, you can improve your chances if you are undeclared. Or you just pick a major that isn't as impacted. But since we're talking about undeclared, that's an option for you. And you can switch into your preferred major once you are accepted. If you don't know what to study, you can explore different options when you're taking your general ed classes in college. So it's completely fine for you to pick undeclared for now, get to college, start taking classes, and decide on a major once you get there. I actually recommend this if you're just like, I really don't know what field I'm going into at all. But for the vast majority of people, they, I think, understand what field they're interested in, even if they don't know what major they want to do. So when I was in high school, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to study, but I knew I was super interested in social sciences, helping people, learning about social issues, right? So sociology was a perfect fit, but I didn't know that back then. I only kind of realized I wanted to do sociology my first semester of college once I actually took a sociology class, because Van Nuys High School doesn't offer sociology. So I had no way of actually knowing if that's something I would like. Pro tip, if your intended major is not impacted, it's better to select that major instead of undeclared. Okay, so If you want to do, let's say, art studio, and at the school you want to go to, it's not impacted. Um, I think it's better to declare art studio than it is to declare undeclared. How do I pick a major? Think about all these factors, right? What do I like? So what classes do I like? What activities do I enjoy? Another thing you can do, and I'll give you a link for this later. Santa Monica College has this worksheet where instead of picking what you like, you eliminate what you don't like. So I did it yesterday, and basically they give you a huge list of different subjects, and I was able to immediately cross off everything that I didn't like. So I think that's easier for people to do. So that's an activity I think you all should try out. Think about what you like and what you don't like. What activities do you enjoy? Right? Like, do you like working with numbers? Do you like working, like, if you were part of a club, are you the one in charge of fundraising and all managing the financial responsibilities? Is that something you enjoy? Then maybe you could look into finance or business or economics, right? For me, that wasn't me at all. I didn't enjoy the math part of anything. So for me, it was always about social sciences, writing, reading. So sociology was a good fit for me. And in high school, I loved my English classes. I loved AP US history because I got to read a lot and learn a lot about the world. What are my career goals?
I want to jump in there really quickly. I also never liked math, but I ended up pursuing economics as a part of my major because I think what you'll realize is that high school math does not at all come close to describing the way math is used in the real world. So your interests can change, and keep that in mind.
Yes. But were you good at math in high school?
Partly. I've never been that good at math.
Okay. Yeah. I asked that just because, like, for me, math was never a strength. So in addition to me not being interested, it wasn't a strength for me. So that's something else you should look into. Like, is this something I'm interested in / am I actually good at it? Is this a strength for me, right? And I think Avdeep is completely correct that it doesn't, the way you learn anything in high school, it really is not reflective of how you learn in college and in the real world. So if you're sort of like, maybe I'm interested in math or economics or anything related, but you don't know, take a class. That's what general ed classes are for. Actually, you'll probably be forced to take a math class because that's part of one of the general ed requirements. Yeah, so actually, before I talk about career goals, I want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses because it's relevant here. What soft/hard skills do I have and do I want? So by that, I mean, what are some, do you have a specialty, right? Do you enjoy writing and are you good at it? If not, do you want to get good at it? So like Avdeep was saying, math was never her thing, but then she got to college and then she actually enjoyed it as part of her major. So like that was an interest that she had, and then she was able to pursue it. So even if you don't exactly know, think about the skills that you have and the skills that you want to learn once you get to college. And that's another way of thinking about what you might want to major in. What are your career goals? Will my job require a specific major? And really good example of that is nursing. To be a nurse, you have to go to nursing school, right? You can't just be like, I'm going to go to sociology and then I'll become a nurse. No, because there are so many requirements and training you have to go through to become a nurse. So if you sort of already know what your end goal is, that's a good way to figure out what you can major in. And engineering and computer science would also be majors where you have to, depending on what exactly you want to be, you might have to specifically major in engineering or computer science. But for a lot of different career goals, you don't have to specialize in anything. And an example of that would be law school. So I'm going to law school in the fall. People who go to law school do all sorts of different things in college. They study English, political science, philosophy. People study art. I'm studying sociology, which is not that common for law school students. You can major in anything and still go to law school. Versus for medical school, even though you can technically major in anything, I know friends who majored in philosophy and are going to med school. There are requirements you have to take while you're in college. Like there are classes you need to take in order to be pre-med eligible. So it's a little bit different. So think about what you might sort of be interested in terms of career. And then finally, related to that, do I need or do I want a postgraduate degree? So again, medical school, speech pathology, law school, these are all postgraduate degrees. So you either get your master's, you get your PhD, or you get like your medical degree, your law degree. Some of these programs might require you to take specific classes in order for you to apply. So the example I used was medical school. Also speech pathology. If you want to be a speech therapist, you have to take a bunch of classes while you're in undergrad in order to apply for your master's as a speech therapist. So that's an example. So think about, and you don't need to know all of this now. I cannot stress this enough. I didn't know I was going to law school in high school. I didn't know until my last semester of community college. That's my end of my second year of college that I realized, wait, I think I want to go to law school. You don't have to know any of this now. It's just a good time to start thinking about it, right? Like, what do I like? What am I good at? What do I want to do with my life in the future? Your major doesn't determine everything. It's not the end of the world if you end up picking something and you don't go that path. You can still get jobs in other fields. And what matters is the skill set that you gain from your major, right? So like I said that my skill set was writing and reading and being able to read and like be able to understand what the main point of what I just read was, which is like a skill that is crucial in law school. You cannot get through law school if you don't know how to read effectively. And you can also gain skills through your extracurricular activities, right? So whatever you're interested in, you can get involved with that in college or outside of college, like through internships and jobs, and gain skills that way. If you don't know what job you want exactly, you can pick a major that will prepare you for a general career field. So an example would be if you know you want to do something in education, but you don't know exactly what. Like you don't know if you want to be a teacher or a college counselor or like a mental health counselor for like students. You don't know what you want to do, but you know education is your goal. Then you can pick something that's relevant to that. So you can pick sociology, you can pick social work, psychology would probably be good. If child development, if your school has that, education, if your school has that. Not all schools offer a bachelor's in education, but like that's a general career field, and you're picking something that will broadly prepare you for it. Another one would be health. Health could include hundreds of different things. You don't know what that means exactly, but you can pick something that will prepare you broadly. So something like nutritional sciences, maybe even biology, although biology is more like very broadly like the study of life. But look into what majors fit the general field you want to be in one day. Avdeep, do you want to share some thoughts on this?
Yeah, actually, so this is kind of personally applicable to me because I think especially so first of all, my major was political economy, and that is a quite a broad, it encompasses something quite broad. Same thing with sociology, which is Arabi's major. These are the kind of majors that don't lead you directly to a career path where you can do a lot. I know people who did political economy who are now working in finance versus people who are now working with NGOs versus people who are working with government. So your majors can be very open-ended and they don't have to determine what you actually end up doing. Your internships and your extracurriculars will determine what you're doing more so. But the other thing I want to say is even if you don't have a major that doesn't directly lead you into a career path. Let's say you have a major that is pretty niche. Your undergraduate major does not end up mattering to your overall career nearly as much. I know people who majored in computer science and then started their own company and became an entrepreneur and had nothing to do with coding ever again. Or people who were majored in biology and thought they were going to go to med school, but ended up working for a biological company and then graduated to CEO and then just went a completely different career route. So just know that like this isn't you determining the rest of your life. So don't freak out too much, study what you're interested in. Other opportunities will come your way as well.
100%. Study what you're interested in. I know like that can't be stressed enough because when you study what you're interested in, you will do good at it. You don't have to it will come more naturally to you. I understand also, maybe you have family or cultural or any other, like even just to make money, like you might want to enter a field even though you're not very interested in that. Like I know when in high school my parents wanted me to be a doctor. I could never be a doctor. I would be a terrible doctor. But for me, although that was never my field, I knew I wanted to help people. So I thought a lot about like, okay, I don't want to be a doctor, but there are so many other ways to help people. How do I see myself helping people? And so I thought a lot about that, and I chose the legal field because I realized so many people in my life and in my community need legal services and they can't afford it or they can't find like a lawyer who speak the language or who can understand where they come from or the cultural background, right? So like I found a very specific field, sort of, law is also very broad, that allow me to help people. So think about that. Like your major doesn't have to lead you directly into any path. You can always change your path, you can change your course. Avdeep also mentioned your internships and your like extracurriculars. Those honestly will help you determine and also kind of figure out what you want, what you don't want to do with your life. And it'll also helps you make connections that will help you down the line. An example of that, so when I was at Berkeley, I was a researcher at this research center that did work with immigrant communities. We were developing this tool, like a research tool that you can find online. So if you put your zip code, it will tell you, and like if you put your zip code, what language you want the lawyer to speak and what kind of services you need, it will tell you the nearest law firm or like nonprofit where you can get that service in your language. So this is a really good way to help immigrant communities because so many of our parents don't speak English properly, right? So that's what I worked on. I realized I loved that work, right? Like that was my thing, not necessarily research, but being able to provide services was so rewarding to me. Although that specific, like that research position honestly wasn't that related to sociology. It was sort of related in the sense that it's about society, it's about like solving complex issues. But because I did that research position, I got to know the professor who was leading the research really well. She wrote me so many recommendation letters. Like I know she has got my back with whatever. She wrote my rec letters for law school, for different scholarships. She connected me to other places and other people I could talk to. Because she's a professor and she's really well connected, she's now a mentor that I can go to whenever I need help with anything, or if I ever need help finding like a research job that's related to the law, I could go to her and ask her for help, right? So I can't stress this enough. What you do outside of classes is so big. It's almost, if not equally as important as what you study, because it can change the way you view your major. Okay, so that was the talking portion. Let me see how we're doing with time. We have time to do this. So what we're going to do right now is find majors that fit your future career fields. But before you can do that, you have to kind of first like figure out what career fields you are interested in or you would be potentially good at. So the first part of this will be to go to bit.ly/FGEP career cluster. When you go there, and I'm going to also show you right now, but I'm going to show you the screenshots. When you go there, you can click start now and take the quiz. It takes like 3 to 5 minutes. It's super short. Once you take it, it will pop up this little screen and it will show you your top career clusters. There's going to be 5 of them. And these are the fields that match your interests and your skills. And you might be surprised by the results, or you might not be. You might think, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. So these are my results. My number 1 is education and training. I've been doing the first like work in education and training for years now. I was a tutor. I did college counseling. Like now I'm doing this project. So I was completely not surprised by this because it fits. Yeah, so take this quiz just to kind of figure out what your career fields are. And the next step before you get started will be to go to the College Board website at bit.ly/FGEP Explore. And that's where you can explore specific jobs within your field. But I want you to do this part at first, just so you can get an understanding. All right. So the next part of this, we're not going to do this, but I want you to do this on your own time because it's super helpful. You go to bit.ly/FGEP Explore, and it takes you to the College Board website. Under career categories, the categories loosely line up with the ones in the test you just did. Not exactly, but loosely. So for example, under public and social services, you can find jobs that fall under that. Under media and social sciences, you'll find jobs that fall under that. If you click on a job, so if you click on, let's say, judges, it will take you to that page for the judges and show you like what judges do, what classes you can take in college and high school to kind of get an understanding of what judges do, what majors are relevant to that field, some activities you can do, like extracurricular activities you can take on that will help you prepare for the legal field. FYI, if you want to be a judge, judges are lawyers forever. Like they have to be a lawyer for decades before they can be a judge. So basically judges are lawyers. Yeah, so that's a really good way to see what you're interested in. what I found helpful with this is when you click on a job, it just tells you what majors are related to that field. So if you don't know what you want to study, this is a really good way to figure that out. And they also have major categories where you can also go through to see what majors fall under each of these categories. Under business, you'll find like economics, business administration, business finance, things like that. Yeah, so please do this at your own time. It really is helpful. I've done this activity with students in the past and they've really liked it. All right, some resources for major exploration. When I post this on the website, you will be able to click on this. When you click on it, it will take you to that page. The Santa Monica College page has tons of helpful resources for you to explore your major and your career fields. So I think it's a good resource for that. Candid Career is a website where you have people talking about their majors and their jobs, and they have a video for every major you can possibly think of. It's very detailed, and the videos are super short. They're only a couple of minutes. So it's another good way to see what people are doing and what they do now with their lives with the major that they had before. Okay, so we're doing our major panel with the remaining time that we have. So I have some questions for all of our panelists, and I will also answer as we go along. Okay, so
and feel free to leave your questions in the chat as well.
Yes, definitely do that. We want to answer your questions as well, but we'll start off with a couple that people might have in mind. So how did you decide on your major? Kamal, do you want to start?
Sure. So I actually did not know I wanted to major in neuroscience. I don't think anyone really knows they want to major in neuroscience in high school. But when I got to Penn, I knew you just wanted a major where I could study a lot. And surprisingly, neuroscience is actually like pretty interdisciplinary. And so I think I took an intro class and I was like, this is crazy. I like the idea that like you could study how brains work. And I became kind of obsessed with it. But then studying nutrition science, I actually was able to do an internship in India that was focused on nutrition and understanding how to improve micronutrient nutrition to prevent diseases. And I fell in love with the internship, and I majored in nutrition science as well. So that's what happened for me.
Great. Avdeep?
Hi, everyone. So I actually had no idea what I wanted to major in. In fact, I was like, I had no idea what I wanted to do as a career as well. So what I did when I got to Berkeley is I just took classes. I just took really random classes. I took political science classes, sociology, anthropology. I was in the College of Letters and Science. I knew I wanted to do something related to humanities. And then I just picked the major based on the class that I liked best. And again, it's kind of like I mentioned earlier, your major does not have to determine the rest of your life, especially your undergraduate major. So don't stress too much, explore.
Thank you. Amy?
Okay, so like for me, when I was applying to like my Cal States and UCs, for the Cal States, I put down like my declared major as kinesiology, because at first I had plans I wanted to do like physical therapy or occupational therapy after my undergrad. However, like once I started looking into the courses of kinesiology, I learned it isn't something that I'm really interested in. So I decided instead to go more so towards like the biological sciences, because that's more so I'm interested. Right now I'm like trying to declare as a biology major, but I'm still interested in like seeing what other sciences there are. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Great. So for me, I think I talked a little about it before. Basically, I knew I was sort of interested in social sciences in high school, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. When I did apply to colleges, though, like in 12th grade, I picked sociology without really understanding what sociology was. So I'm really glad that worked out for me, because it was kind of a guess that I put just so I had something to put on my college applications. I didn't want to put undeclared. So yeah, I went with sociology. Once I got to community college, I started taking social classes, and that's when I realized I really, really love it. I love the subject. I love the professors who taught them. So that's sort of how it fell in place for me. My other major that I was interested in is political science. So I was either going to do social or political science. I liked sociology more because it focused on social issues and issues of inequality, whereas I think political science is more about like government institutions and how the government works and political systems work, which I wasn't as interested in. So that's sort of how it came into place for me. And Another question, what advice do you have about navigating major exploration for our students? Anyone can go with that.
So I think for me, so one thing that I wanted to say was when I was in high school, I did take APs and I did take community college courses. And my plan was completed wave out of prereqs. But when I got into my university is essentially like everything you did before the school doesn't matter. You have to start from scratch. And at first I was like, oh, this is terrible. It's such a negative thing. But then I took like prereqs or not prereqs. In my school, we called them, instead of call them general ed, they're essentially like a general ed version. They're called sector requirements. And I just took these like random sector requirements, and that's what really led me to understand like what majors I wanted and even what minors I wanted. And it was absolute. I think people always hate on general eds, but definitely take the opportunity to study something you've never studied before, and surprisingly, it might become what you study for the rest of your life.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have the same advice. Take as many classes in fields that you may not know so much about as you can, and you never know where your interest might pop up. I took an astronomy class too, and then I had this weird interest in physics, and I wanted to switch my major to physics for a really long time, which is very random, but it was a new experience. So take as many classes as you can.
Yeah, for me, my advice is the same, but also that you can major in something and still take classes in other fields. It doesn't lock you in exactly, right? So you can do something like, you can be an engineering major, but still take classes in sociology and political science, like in the social sciences, just so you have a broad understanding of other fields as well. So my advice is, it's whatever you pick, let it be something that you're interested in, that's something that you will excel in, and be open to exploring other fields, even ones that you have never heard of before. Because once you get to college, people major in all sorts of random things that you've never heard of. And schools are always coming up with new majors as well. So when we were at Berkeley, it had just launched this data science program, which is separate from computer science, right? And everyone was taking this one data science class just to learn more about it. So be open to different fields. You never know where it takes you. If Amy, do you want to add anything?
No, I agree with you guys. Like, just go find something that you like and like challenges you as well. Because you may not like something, but sometimes it's like learning to get through it and something new that might help you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone have any questions we can answer right now? I know we're running out of time, but just a few more minutes while we wrap up. I hope what you got out of this presentation is just that there's so much open to you, and explore your interests now and once you get to college. It really, like, you don't have to determine anything or decide anything right now.
And if you have questions after this, you can, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. If you need help, like you just want to talk about our majors, the four of us, you can message us at firstgenvnhs@gmail.com, and we can connect you to whoever you want to talk to. The College Board website was this one. So career, oh, it's this. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so highly recommend taking that or just like going through their website. College Board has a lot of useful resources. Please scan this QR code to take our survey to let us know how we're doing. If you have any ideas for how we can be better, we want to make these as useful as possible for you. Visit firstgenempower.com. We have a lot of resources there already, and we're always adding more. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, we have a newsletter that we're going to be rolling out pretty soon. So please sign up for it so you can learn more about like workshops that are coming up each week. And then in the future, we'll also kind of give you like a monthly breakdown of what you should be doing each month as it relates to the college application process. If you want to join our First Gen Empowerment Club at Van Nuys High School, so this is only for Van Nuys students, please fill out that interest form at tinyurl.com/FGE interest. This will help our leadership students see who wants to join and what kind of work you might be doing in the fall to help students apply for college. Our next workshop is on July 1st from 12 to 1, and it's about financial aid, the FAFSA and the California DREAM Act. We're not going to take you through the applications themselves, but we will give you a broad overview of what the application is, what it qualifies you for, and some tips for filling out the application and some like online resources that you can use. Okay, so that was our last, like just everything you need to know. If you have any questions now or through email, through Instagram, please reach out to us. If you don't already know our Instagram, it's at First Gen Empowerment. So you can follow us there. We post pretty regularly. We post about like workshops that are coming up. We'll share scholarship opportunities from other organizations. So it's a good way to kind of keep updated. And yeah, we're always a resource for you. Please reach out if you ever have any questions. And we hope to see you next week. Bye.